Like, can you imagine? We're parents, right?
I
It's
was
one
about to
thing
say.
for me to just like watch my kids. I know they're about to jump off of this thing or hurt themselves. It's one thing to just stand back and let it happen.
It's nothing to push them.
It'd be a whole other thing to push them, like to throw them off of something, right? Like
That's
that would be a whole nother level. And guys, like, no, I'm not just gonna sit back and let y'all be to yourself. I'm against you too.
I'm so sorry. The visual is so messed up. It's so messed up. This visual in my head, just like.
Yo, welcome back to the Vibes Daily Podcast. It is day 232 of our year-long series we have titled Devoted, where we are journeying through the entire Bible from cover to cover. We started at Genesis. We are currently making our way through Jeremiah, and in our second week of reading. And I am now back and joined by my wife, Victoria, who's here with me again. Last week, you and Shamika started us off with Jeremiah, so I'm the one joining in the conversation.
Welcome to my couch.
Yes, I am here now to join in and discuss Jeremiah and hopefully try to keep up some of the same energy a little bit. You guys were
no pressure
cracking me up last week.
No pressure.
A lot of energy there. But before we jump into chapter 21, where we will pick up today, we love to start, of course, each week with a question that kind of just gets our thoughts going and learns a little bit about us in the process. But this question just kind of based off of what we know about Jeremiah's situation, and we'll get into some of that here today. We know he kind of signed up for a really difficult season and task.
Yeah.
And so just was curious, man, have you ever signed up for something that you knew was going to be difficult?
Yeah. So one thing I did sign up for that I thought would be difficult, but I didn't know the extent, right? Was being a stay-at-home mom. I was like, yes, this is going to be a little bit difficult because, I wanted to have like everything in order and like the laundry is going to be done and I'm going to have dinner made. I'm going to have the house clean and, me and the baby. And then it was mind-blowing difficult. Actually, when I got into it, I think I had like a little bit I felt like the God gave me a glimpse of like, this is your task. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to be doing a lot, right? Like, he told me what I was going to be doing, but I didn't realize how difficult it was going to be until I got into it. And then once we definitely had our second child quickly after that, and there was 2 under 2, I was like, whoa, this is next level. Like, I worked a lot of hard jobs. Like you said, I know you thought I was going to say probably something about working, at the drug and rehab facility or something. I feel like those were more fulfilling and like exciting maybe, but it didn't seem real taxing. But when I got into that stay-at-home mom role, I was like, this is probably one of the hardest jobs I worked in. I could call myself like a real like worker. Like I felt like I had a lot of grit. Like I worked night shifts, but no, that was nothing like this night shift.
That's hilarious. The season's still going.
We got another newborn. So 5 kids later.
Good. Okay. I think for me, the answer is probably ministry, just as a whole. I think when I shared a little bit of my story a couple weeks ago, probably with, I guess, Isaiah is probably where that story kind of came up. But I still remember like calling Pastor Curry, who was at the time he was still the executive pastor at Friendship, and he was my youth pastor growing up, and he was one of the first people I told, even when I was like considering going into ministry. And I recall when my senior pastor in Atlanta kind of asked me to be the youth pastor. Like, I remember calling him and I was low-key in tears, like, I don't think I'm ready for this. Like, I don't want to sign up for this, because to me, ministry it's a heavy weight and burden, and like particularly just like leadership or pastoral leadership. And I just didn't want that. I didn't want the attention. I didn't want the pressure.
Yeah.
I didn't want to actually have to live up to the standard of what I believed like a minister should live up to.
Yeah.
And at that time, I wasn't really living to that standard, not to the way I wanted to. And so like I just knew it would be difficult. I knew I'd have to make sacrifices. I knew my life was going to have to change. I knew things like that were going to happen. And it was a challenge in its own way. Kind of then, I think it has a different expression now than it even does then. So like even as ministry has morphed and changed, it does have its challenges. And so that's probably the one for me. But
yeah, I remember when you were like, you're gonna be a pastor's wife. I was like, no, I'm not. You gonna be up there on the stage. I'm gonna be in the back doing whatever I want to. And you're like, it don't work like that. I was
it
like,
does not. It does not work that way.
You're like, you gonna have to change too, boo.
Yeah. That's what you signed up for in the process.
I guess I could add that one to my checklist.
Yeah, because you have your own ministry there.
I was struggling.
But
You do it well though, baby. Do it well.
We're doing our best. We're trying. But Jeremiah signed up for kind of a difficult call himself. We thought Isaiah had a tough job.
Yeah.
Jeremiah has a really tough one. And so, we'll continue to read some of what he has to say on behalf of the Lord to the people of Judah and to these kings and whatnot. But we pick up here in chapter 21. Shortly after he, is lamenting and cursing the day he was born and things of that nature. And there's a king, Zedekiah, who essentially comes to ask for deliverance from Nebuchadnezzar. King Nebuchadnezzar, who's coming in the same way that like Hezekiah asked and some others before him.
Oh yeah.
And God says, no.
Nah, bro.
No.
Nah, you on your own on this one.
I'm sorry. He's just like, denied. Like
access denied. Yeah,
I feel like it was like a credit application. It just got rejected.
Yep. Nope.
No.
No.
We're not lending you any money.
That was called because, like you said, there were kings before. Every other time we've seen this before, all God asked him to do was come and turn to me and ask me, and I will show up on your behalf. And now they came, and he was just like, "Yeah, no, y'all too late. Like y'all missed the bus on this one. Like no, I'm not doing this."
Yeah. What stuck out to you about this story aside from that?
I mean, not only did he not help them, because like in and of itself, that's shocking, right? But verse 5, that I myself will fight against you.
Yeah, that was crazy, right?
With outstretched hand and strong arm, in anger and in fury, and in great wrath. I was like, whoa, y'all messed up. Like y'all must have had to do something wrong.
Yeah, like it's so much worse, right? Like it's not just I'm just gonna sit back and watch y'all like fall to your own selves, right? Like just I'm just gonna sit back and let you make your own mistakes and let you like can you imagine? We're parents, right? There's one thing for me to just like watch my kids, I know they're about to jump off of this thing and hurt themselves. There's one thing to just stand back and let it happen.
It's another thing to push them.
It'd be a whole other thing to push them. Like to throw them off of something, right? Like that would be a whole nother level. And God's like, no, I'm not just gonna sit back and let y'all be to yourself. I'm against you too.
I'm so sorry. The visual is so messed up. It's so messed up. This visual in my head, just like
I'm gonna push you off the ledge.
That's crazy.
That's
I'm just like, how bad do you have to be for your parent to get that upset? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how bad do you have to be that God, the most loving God who is love, to get so fed up with you that he is like, not only am I not going to rescue you, I'm bringing this against you and I'm fighting against you.
Yeah.
Like, and as we've read though, it's been years and like hundreds of years, right? Of rebellion and just turning their backs on him and not listening. And not only that, like I said, now they're worshiping Baal. They brought Baal stuff into his temple. Like they've totally forgotten about God. So now it is kind of like, no, it's too late, y'all. Yeah. Like for hundreds of years, I've been trying to get your attention. Yeah. And y'all like, la di da, all is well. Let me drink my wine and go party with Baal. Like,
no. It is crazy. Like you said, to that extent, right? God is loving and is merciful and is kind and is gracious as existence.
Yeah.
Right? As it exists. And for him to be at that level of I'm gonna push you off the ledge.
That's super whack.
That is crazy. It's falling. But to his credit, right? To the credit of his grace and his mercy, he does still give them an option for life. If you start kind of at verse 8, right? Where he's essentially saying, like, if you're willing to surrender,
Yeah.
right? Like, if you're willing to surrender and to Nebuchadnezzar, because like I am already handing this nation over to Nebuchadnezzar. That part is inevitable.
That's it.
That part's inevitable. That's what I'm telling you, Zedekiah. I'm doing that either way.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're willing to surrender, you can live.
Yes.
If you resist,
Mm-hmm.
you will die.
That part.
Yeah. What? Anything else? Kind of the second half of 21 that you thought was interesting?
Yeah. Well, like you said, he says that, and I'm just like, yet again, as much as we keep on talking about, he's even said there's destruction, but yet I'm going to save a remnant. Or yet I'm going to do this. Like, here he is telling him what they're going to do. No, I'm not going to help you. But yeah, I do love that he's just like, but I'm giving you another opportunity. Like, if you stay in this city, you're going to die.
Yeah.
If you go with you, like, not only will you go, but you'll go and be able to have all the things that they have. And I know it's not specifically in this chapter where he goes through, like, you know, the plushness of their land and the, you know, the bountifulness. He does that later on, but at least here, like, he's said it. But I love in 14 though, like, he still tells them why. Like, I will punish you according to the fruit of your deeds, declares the Lord, right?
Yeah.
Like, I will kindle a fire in her forest, and it will devour all that is around her. And once again, he's like, I've never kept it a secret why I'm doing these things, right? These are because of your own deeds.
Yeah, that's good. It's always fair, right? And I think we know God is just, and that's something that we can always depend on as well. But it's on the vein of that justice, right? Kind of go into 22, and God sends him before kings, which in and of itself already, I was just kind of like getting back to just these tough assignments that Jeremiah has. But
yeah,
sends before kings into their palace to declare essentially judgment against them as well. What stuck out to you kind of in this first part of 22?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like he's just like, he'll swear by himself, right? This, like, I swear by myself in verse 5 is like, whenever God says that, they always just like, yeah, like, who else are you gonna swear by? Like, there's nobody greater or higher or more definitive to swear by. And so when he starts saying that, like, I perk up to like listen.
No, I thought that phrase was significant because, like,
yeah,
I mean, just in general, like, can you imagine? I mean, can you imagine God being like on God? You know what I'm saying? Like that's
oh God,
literally that's like he's like on me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
put that on me though.
On me. Like, but for real, like, how often do we?
Yeah,
you know, we talk about kind of using the Lord's name in vain, but just like how often, and even in Scripture, He says, "Don't do that. Like, don't even put it in my name. Like, just let your yes be yes, and no be no."
Yeah.
And even He is at the point where He's just like exclamation point
on me.
On me, I swear by me.
Wow.
On exclamation point.
Yeah.
I mean what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
Like, don't sweat it. And we get to something later where, like, you know, even when he kind of talks about his covenant towards David, where he's just like, when I say what I mean, like, until the sun stops rising and the moon stops setting,
that
like,
was crazy.
Or something, like, until then, know that what I say is gonna go.
Yeah.
And like, I meant it. And I just, I don't know, that I swear by me, that stuck out to me too. Cause that's literally how I read it, was just like, on me. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I thought that was crazy. Cause it's just like, it's this, to me, almost like this, this footnote in there, but I think it was significant that he says it.
Yeah, definitely here, because like you said, he tells us not to do that because we can't. Who are you to say what you're going to do and not going to do?
True.
You're not in control of anything.
True.
But he's like, but me, who I'm in control of everything, I'm gonna tell you, this place is going to come to desolation, right? Yeah. Like, this place is going to be trampled.
Yeah.
And just watch and see. like I've been saying. So I have 2 different Bibles because you already know the ESV be challenging me sometimes. I need my CSB to back me up, and my CSB has my commentary. So sorry, I'm juggling Bible. I feel like a waitress. I'm just juggling plates.
I'm not mad. You need a second table.
I need my things. No, I'll make it work. This is awkward. I'm making it work though.
You really need your glasses.
I need my glasses. The ESV's text is so smaller. Help me, Lord. I'm gonna figure it out, y'all.
We're gonna work it out.
I'm gonna work it out.
That's all right. Okay. Well, let's keep going through 22. And so, he obviously makes that declaration, and then we get this declaration kind of or this message for Shalom that starts at verse 10 of 22. It's very interesting because this starts this section in the rest of 22 where he kind of calls out specific kings, right?
Yeah.
So we have Shalom, we have Jehoiakim. We'll eventually get a Coniah, who I believe is Jehoiachin or Jehoiakim.
Yeah, Jehoiachin.
There you go. But just a different name for him. And so as he kind of deals with these kings in specifically, anything else, I would just take that section as a whole. Anything else as he deals with these specific kings that just jumped out to you?
Yeah, and this Sons of Josiah one from 11 to 17. I love this verse 16 because in reading the Bible, I didn't realize just how important taking care of the poor and the needy was. It comes up in almost every book of the Bible, right? And it's just crazy, the emphasis. But he says in verse 16, he took up the case of the poor and needy. Then it went well. Is this not what it means to know me?
Is that amazing?
This is the Lord's declaration. Isn't this what it, to be a good person, right? Or to do what the Lord says, or to abide by my will. No, he says taking care of the poor and needy is how you can show that you know the Lord. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's so deep. Because if you're not willing to help them, how can you say you know me? And I think this was the problem that he had with the leaders, the priests and the prophets and the people. It's y'all not taking care of my sheep. There is homeless people, abandoned people, widows and orphans starving out here, and y'all not taking care of them. How can you say you're doing the work of the Lord if you're not willing to take care of the people?
Yeah.
We just bring it full circle to Jesus, right? They be like, Lord, when did we feed you? When did we clothe you? Matthew 25. He was like, when you did it for the least of these, you were doing it for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know I'm
yeah, you in thought.
It's not even so much as I'm in thought. I just, to your point, it is very much an emphasis. And I think the more we have read this Bible and discussed it, right? It is one of those things that you get to that point where you say something so often that it you feel like you've just said it over and over again. I know I've said it, right? And because we've done this podcast now for what we say is 232 times, but minus the weekends, we've done it hundreds of times.
Yeah.
We keep coming up with take care of the poor.
Yep.
Take care of the needy, right? Serve them, do for them. That I'm with you that it's clear that if we don't get anything else as the body of believers, right, and as followers of him, we ought to know this. And I'm where do we reflect? Do we reflect enough on the fact that are we doing this well?
Yeah.
And I don't just mean $1 to the homeless person off the side of the road.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying we give to our church and our church takes care of them.
Because we have a ministry set up for that.
Yeah, we got a ministry for outreach that does that. And I pay my tithes and my church does that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But do I take ownership over how do I care for the poor and the needy?
Because it didn't say give them $1 here. It says to take up the case of the poor and needy. In my commentary, thank you, commentary, talked about the concern for the poor, right? Are you concerned about them? Like, are you like invested? Like, what you need is like a real heart for them, and that you are willing to do for them there. You know what I'm saying? And not just because we've talked about it before. It's easy to give money. That's sometimes the easier thing. Giving your time though, and your energy, yeesh, that's a lot harder sometimes for me to do that than to drop off a $5 bill and say, I'm praying for you as I drive off.
Yeah. It's real. Yeah. That stuck out to me too, which is also why I just wanted to stay there, like when we read it. But like, I don't know, that we said it last or 2 weeks ago. I feel like it came up. We were talking about Isaiah 58 and fasting, and like again, it just feels like it keeps coming back around. But anything else in 22?
Sorry, I didn't even turn the page. I got more highlights. But do you have anything?
Mine is in his last verse. It's kind
Okay.
of the other thing that I really have.
Oh, the childless. That one was good. Okay, before you get to that one though, I do just love that, like how he talks about like just naming Nebuchadnezzar, right? Like this is I think it's different when they've been saying these things and it's like some like cities from the north or whatever. But I feel like when the Lord is speaking and he says like specifically like it will be Nebuchadnezzar who takes you, like I think that just says different than because he's naming these people. Now I know that they know Nebuchadnezzar is around and he's threatening them at this point, so he's not like a mysterious person to them,
right?
But I just he's like I will tear you off and give you into the hands of those who seek your life. And it's just, once again, he's like, Nebuchadnezzar is that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, I'll say last thing I had on 22, as we try to make our way through these last two chapters as well, is verse 30 was very interesting. And I don't know if we can unpack all of it today. We can kind of probably get to some of it when we get to the, or at least all of my thoughts from it. Because it kind of took me on a rabbit hole, honestly, when I read it. But it's just like, so this is again Coniah, who is also Jehoiachin, one of the kings of Judah. This is what the Lord says: record this man is childless, a man who will not be successful in his lifetime. None of his descendants will succeed in sitting on the throne of David or ruling again in Judah. And just like, this curse that essentially says that this king will not have it. Now, what's interesting is because we will get to it again later in Jeremiah. Like God has a covenant with David that a man will always sit on, like one of his descendants will always sit on the throne, essentially, right? And so like, but he tells him like, no, you won't be a part of, that specific covenant, essentially. But what's interesting to me is in Matthew chapter 1, when you read the lineage of Jesus, because we understand this now, right? We talked about this before. Yeah. That like the king that God is essentially promising that will come and fulfill all of this is Jesus, right? Right. And so, but in Matthew's lineage, right, it says starting in chapter 1, verse 11, it says, and Josiah fathered Jeconiah and his brothers at the time of the exile to Babylon. So Jeconiah is another name for Coniah or Jehoiachin. So all three of those names are referring to the same person. A lot of names there. But and then verse 12, after the exile, Jeconiah fathered Shehaltiel. So this guy is actually in Jesus's lineage. Like, now it's to Joseph, who is not Jesus's biological father, right? Because Mary is a virgin, but like it goes through Joseph here in Matthew's lineage. And so it's a very interesting like, verse. And, again, the rabbit hole it took me was just like maybe understanding that, okay, although it's his Joseph lineage, because Jesus couldn't technically come from Joseph's lineage because, he's not biological. So he had to come through Mary, which is where Luke's genealogy is different than Matthew's.
Yeah, it is.
Luke traces Mary's back to David as well, right? And ultimately to Adam. But like, I don't know. It was just I read it and it sent me on a rabbit hole of just like trying to understand if God is breaking this covenant essentially with him, but how he still keeps the promise to Jesus coming through Mary instead of through his father Joseph, which is just like, I don't know.
When I say the Lord covers his bases, I think that's what this Bible tells me, because there's so many controversies on certain things, right, that comes out. I feel like he still be covering all his bases.
Like, I would say, but I feel like what it really is to me.
How sovereign.
Well, he's definitely that. I agree with you wholeheartly. The other thing is, don't think because I made a promise to your grandpappy.
Ooh, not grandpappy. Your grandpappy.
Yeah, that like you go find a way that you can just do whatever you want to.
Yeah, and get into this blessing.
And you still gonna be in this blessing. You know what I'm saying? Like, he still found a way to punish him despite his own covenant, his own promise he made to David. He still found a way to punish him.
Yep.
In the end.
Yep.
Right? To where when Jesus comes, he can still say, yeah, I'm not really from you though. Like,
yeah.
Like, I'm really from her. I'm really from my mama, which means I came from somebody else through David's line.
That's crazy, because this whole time he had to be keeping up with that plan too.
Sure.
That whole time he was like, I'm gonna make you this. Mary's line had to be kept up with too, up to this point.
Right. And they had to come together. Mary and Joseph.
That's crazy. Talk about me. Listen, talk about you found your spouse that you're supposed to be with.
Yeah. It's very interesting. So anyway, let's get to 23 because we're running low on time here.
That's true. We talking.
Yeah. So which jumps out to you in 23? I want to give a whole intro this time.
Yeah, I mean, he's talking about these lying prophets. I'm just going to jump to that, right? Like, well, initially in verse 1, he's like talking about these shepherds who have like scattered his sheep from his pasture, right? They're not taking care of his people. The leaders are not stepping up here. And then in verse 10, though, he's like, the land is full of adulterers. Because of the curse, the land mourns, and the pastures of the wilderness are dried up. And he said their course is evil and their might is not right. And that one just jumped out to me, because it's like, yeah, like he's like, this land is cursed because of you guys' actions. And you remember, like, he talked about defiling the land, right? And how previous nations had defiled the land, and when they came into the promised land, that like there's all this about like how they're supposed to act and stuff, so they did not defile the new land they were bringing into. Now that this land is cursed, and yeah, like it just, I don't know, it's just, I never thought about my actions defiling the place that I live or dwell.
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes it's like, well, my actions might affect me, they might affect the people around me, like my house or like the ground, like what are you talking about, the area that I'm in, like that my actions could really defile all of that was crazy. But then in verse 11 it says, both prophet and priest are ungodly, even in my house I have found their evil, declares the Lord. That is hard, because I think I mentioned just a couple weeks ago that when the land was acting up and the people of Israel were acting up, and maybe even just the king, because sometimes our focus wasn't on the king. Sometimes I didn't realize how much of a role the priests and the prophets were still playing in not obeying the Lord.
Right.
Sometimes I thought it was just the king and the people that were wilding, right? And in my mind, because there wasn't so much emphasis on what the priests and the prophets were doing at the time, when we were going through like Kings and Chronicles, it didn't occur to me that like the priests were just as corrupt, in that nobody was upholding the law of the Lord. Yeah,
it's good. I do have a part in this section down kind of at verse 23 that stuck out to me, but before that, just a real quick kind of note that 5 through 8 is kind of a reference to Jesus, right? That we kind of we have this righteous branch of David, right? So there's kind of a little bit of a foreshadow and prophecy about when Jesus will come later and some of what he will do. So didn't want to gloss over that specifically, but no issues. Didn't want to mention that, but then verse 23 I thought was interesting, because to your point about like all of him paying attention to these prophets that are ungodly and kind of leading the people in the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why just this verse in 23 I thought was very profound. Just that
I highlighted that too.
Yeah. Am I a God who is only near? This is the Lord's declaration, and not a God who is far away. Can a person hide in secret places where I cannot see him? The Lord's declaration. Do I not feel the heavens and the earth? The Lord's declaration, which that the Lord's declaration piece is like 15 times in this particular chapter.
Right.
So he wants to keep emphasizing. It's like he's using it like a comma, actually, kind of almost in this conversation. But I don't know. I just thought it was so profound, just that like I'm not just a God who is near you,
Right.
but I'm a God who is far away. Like I can see all, right? Like I can see everything. I am all over the place. I'm not just in this temple,
Yeah.
right, and in this quiet place, but like I see you in your quiet places, in your dark places. And I just love that he, like you said, he fills the heavens and the earth. Like there's just no crevice and no place where he cannot go.
Yeah, definitely. I highlighted that too, because it was just like, yeah, like sometimes you'd be like, Lord, where are you? Right. And then we always feel like he's, far away, but like he's everywhere. Like he's near, he's far, he's here, he's there, like he's in the crevice. Now you make him mad, like the Israelites, he might turn his face.
Yeah.
Just kidding. But yeah, it was really interesting there. But I think I also noticed later on, like him just getting frustrated. In like verse 38, in my opinion, it seemed like frustration. It says, but if you say the burden of the Lord, thus says the Lord, because you have said these words, the burden of the Lord, when I sent to you, saying, you shall not say the burden of the Lord. Therefore, behold, I will surely lift you up and cast you away from my presence, you and the city that I gave to you and your fathers. And I don't know why this was like so, touchy for him, but he was just like, even backing up verse 36, it was like, but the burden of the Lord you shall mention no more, for the burden is every man's own word, and you pervert the words of the living God, the Lord of hosts, our God. So yeah, like it's like I've already told you guys what the problem is, and you keep making more burdens, right? With your lips, with your actions, and what you're doing.
Yeah, but it was less about the way I read it and understood it. I feel like it was less about the phrase "the burden of the Lord." Like that's what they were saying.
Yeah.
But it was about the fact that they were essentially trying to lie in God's name. Like they were saying, so like to me, a modern day is just like in Jesus' name, or the Lord says, or God told me to tell you. You know what I'm saying? Like it's that same. It don't matter what you use or what you say, but like if you continue to try to put His name on something He didn't say, He's like, nah, like that's what I'm gonna do to you. You know what I mean? And I think it's that caution thing, which I'll be the first to admit, man, I am fearful of ever using the phrase God told me to tell you.
Right.
Like I am.
It's so much anxiety in that.
I need to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is what the Lord said. I don't want this to just be my idea. I don't want it to just be my intuition, my quote unquote wisdom. Right? You said what?
My inklings.
Right? I'm leaning this way. Like, no, I will use those kind of phrases instead. I have a feeling. I'm leaning. I feel moved. I'll say all sorts of stuff before I say God said.
Before I say that says the Lord.
Until I know for a fact that, like, oh no, I'm standing on like this. God said this.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what He's referring to. Is just like, look, it's one thing that you're gonna prophesy or whatever, but as soon as you put my name on it, that's a problem.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the burden of the Lord.
Yeah. Because they even asked, because like you said, the prophets were saying what they believed, right? And they're leading people astray by their lies, as they're mentioning in verse 32. And then, it says, but prophet or priest ask, like, what is the burden of the Lord? You tell them, you the burden. Like, you are the burden, and I will cast you off. Like, you said, stop making up reasons why these things are happening. Yeah. Like, and blame shifting. Yeah. And making up lies, right?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Okay, so I know we got to get to 34. 24.
Yeah. So we'll close out here with 24, short chapter. Just this vision God gives Jeremiah about these good figs and these bad figs. what do you think was interesting about this vision?
Well, the first verse, of course, is like now Nebuchadnezzar had taken exile, right? He had taken, this is after he had taken some already into exile now. So they've gone. So he said that they would be taken.
Yeah.
And Jehoiakim, they have been taken. Like you said, but yeah, there's good figs and there's bad figs. That he says is these good figs are the ones that are going into exile. Like he told them, if you go with them, I'll bring you back. And the bad ones that are left in the land are the bad figs. And he says he's going to destroy you with sword or pestilence or whatever it's going to be. But I think it was interesting that I can't remember what chapter it is, and it's on a different day. But we're going to get to it where the Lord even just calls them bad figs later on in this book. And refers back to this vision. It seems like that he calls them bad figs again. Yeah.
That's good. And then I think I'll just close with the context that you kind of referred to in the beginning, right? We remember from 2 Kings and 2 Chronicles that like there was kind of like 2 deportations or so of Judah, essentially, right? Like Nebuchadnezzar comes and gets, I believe it's Jehoiakim first.
Yes.
And then places Zedekiah as like the king in Judah while he has one of the kings in captivity.
Yes.
Before he ultimately, Zedekiah, who he kind of makes like a governor of the land essentially, but he's a king, before like does something to go against Nebuchadnezzar, and then Nebuchadnezzar's like, all right, fine, I'm taking all y'all. Right?
Yeah.
And he comes back for everybody. So to your point, like this is that in-between phase where he has taken one of the kings, but he has not necessarily exported all of Judah because they're still technically living in their land and just being governed by a Jewish king at that point. So just that was I thought was important to kind of dictate, because Jeremiah is not in necessarily chronological order.
Not at all.
So
this thing jumps all over the place.
Yeah, so it's important to kind of understand some of the context when you're reading these certain passages. But yeah, I think it's good. Ultimately, we know this happens. All this stuff takes place. And, even when we get to one of the books I'm really excited to get to is Daniel, because we get to see a little bit, get some insight into life in Babylon.
Yeah.
Like what it looked like while the Jews were there specifically. And, he would be one of those good figs, essentially. Yeah. That's kind of referred to here. He and his friends. So, but brings us to the end of today's reading. Covered a lot there. I know our chapters are a little bit longer kind of this week. So we won't have as many chapters to read and cover this week, but hopefully still plenty of content to discuss. But I appreciate you guys joining us. Thank you again for being with us on the Vibes Daily Podcast. Come back and see us tomorrow. We'll pick up on chapter 25. But until then, take care.
Thank you for joining us for the Vibes Daily Podcast. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, or download our favorite, the Vibes Church app. Visit vibes.church/devoted for additional episodes, notes, details, and the latest merch. Join us next time as we continue our journey through the Bible. Take good care.